pray. No أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم No need for me alone. Me alone has to be out all the crowd. If it isn't the crowd, never Maulana will open it. The most important is the crowd. And for this, the Ummah of Rasulullah, nation of Rasulullah, the most important. For that sake, Allah sent the Rasulullah and opened all these teachings and all Quran, all divine knowledge. For the sake of the Ummah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تسوي يا سيدي مدد We ask wonders first of all from Maulana Shaykh Adnan to support us and to bless us and to open the station from him, especially and from Grand Shaykh and the old Grand Shaykh and Sayyidina Abu to speak and blessings of Rasulullah and divine blessings from Allah Almighty. Otherwise we have nothing to say or to speak, but I am coming to my station. I am, as you are listening, I am listening also, only translating. Because sometimes the station needs a tongue to translate from them. And they have the power, if they like Maulana, he could address directly. But it is not the traditional way. Because Allah Almighty doesn't talk directly to people, but He can prophet and messenger for them. Which means Allah Almighty He likes everything to be in the traditional way and channel which Allah Almighty governs everything according to it, not to be given directly. Otherwise, if Allah Almighty directly wants to give, all of them they will be totally shocked from the voice of Allah Almighty. Even Prophet, Allah makes for them Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam to descend the revelation, the wahi, not directly Allah Almighty talking to them. Only for Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, choosing him Allah Almighty to talk to him, and for this also, by talking to him, Allah made him to lose his mind, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And for this no wisdom was given to them. Because he was shocked by the voice of Allah Almighty. And when he was telling, "Oh Allah Almighty, make me to see you, to look at you. أنظر إليك." قال لن تراني. No, you will not see me, Musa. But look at the mountain. I am going to only shine a little bit of my light over the mountain. If the mountain remains, you can see. And when Allah Almighty is rays of light coming over the mountain, Musa was inside the mountain, totally finished, damaged, no more existing. Because the mountain cannot tolerate. How about you, Musa, can tolerate? This is for Anam. But for Awliya, the knowledge, divine knowledge that Allah Almighty, He wants tajalla. What is tajalla in English? Tajalla? Manifestation. Tajalla, when Allah Almighty makes a tajalli, manifestation or blessing you like over the essence of Sayyidina Musa, over the essence of Sayyidina Musa, which Allah describing it as a mountain, like this was around the essence of Sayyidina Musa, even though was finished. And when it was finished, no more existing, shock and conscious, then Allah Almighty surviving him again by his earthly life. And he was awakened and saying, I am because believer in you, Allah Almighty. Because to believe by you, Allah Almighty, وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِنِّي تُبْتُ إِلَيْكَ. I am returning to you and I am the first. Because after Allah Almighty, his manifestation and his covering by his life Sayyidina Musa, and the essence of Sayyidina Musa finished, and only Allah making him to be surviving by the life of Allah Almighty, then was able to see Allah Almighty. And for this he says, I refer to you, and I am the first mu'min. He didn't say the first Muslim, because Muslim Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وأنا أول المسلمين say Rasulullah Surah Al-An'am. I am the first. For Sayyidina Musa he say I am the first mu'min, because he saw Allah Almighty. And for this one the Sahaba was talking about the Prophet, and of course I say Rasulullah is the most preferable and the most higher, and like this and that about Rasulullah, and Rasulullah answering, and he heard what they were, because angry Rasulullah, and he was causing the Sahaba, don't differentiate between the Prophet, all to Allah Almighty the same. Even I am so satisfied, day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, when Allah Almighty waking me after guiding me to come to His divine presence, I am seeing before me, catching one of the pillars of the throne, Sayyidina Musa already there. I think because already he has been shocked and finished and survived again, no more for him death and surviving. He will be always present. Yawm al-Qiyamah, the harm will not affect him. He will be before me in the throne of Allah Almighty. He was telling them like this. So that is a habit to keep respect to all the prophets. Don't say this is better and this is better. And only Rasulullah he can. For Allah Almighty say anything he likes. And for this Rasulullah he say, I am the Lord of children of Adam alayhi salam. And no power. Because Allah says me like this. Not I am saying myself by this. Something from Allah Almighty given to me. So no proud from myself, but it is all proud given by Allah Almighty for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for this was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the first perfect man Allah to remain and appear. When Allah Almighty wants to be known, His will to be known, and Allah Almighty making the light of all His manifestation to appear, to come out of the ocean of uniqueness of Allah Almighty, appearing, reflected on the ocean of oneness, wahdaniyah of Allah Almighty. All of them, they were, Allah Almighty mixing them by His eye, looking second to second on the reality of Rasulullah, which He put in a lamp, then in His divine presence, and looking at the reality and mixing all these light coming from the divine ocean, the ocean of light of Allah Almighty, for all manifestations, whom they are going to be creation afterwards, and He was mixing them in the reality of Rasulullah. Mixing them in the reality of Rasulullah, until Rasulullah was totally dressed by all manifestations and light from pre-eternal and forever going Allah Almighty to appear them as a creation, to be created and appear to know Allah Almighty. And for this, Allah Almighty appointed him to be the representative of them for all the creation, to lead them to Allah Almighty. All this light will be by the imamiyyah of Rasulullah, as Allah Almighty saying in the Holy Quran, وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ which means all these manifestations, all these lights, everything appearing from La ilaha illallah, from the ocean of light of Allah Almighty, كل شيء, everything, أحصيناه, we endorse it, أحصيناه في إمام مبين, we endorse it in a shining imam in my divine letter. Didn't say in a book, في كتاب مبين, وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. Who is this imam who is coming in all these manifestations, light of Allah Almighty, whom Allah connects with His name, whom Allah Almighty connects divinely got the word of Allah Almighty, Muhammadun Rasulullah. And for this he was the imam, and once everything was well dressed, Allah Almighty 500,000 years, 7 times, and every second to second looking 70,000, penetrating light to enter into the reality of Rasulullah, over the reality of Rasulullah, to be dressed and mix all the light as they are appearing side by side, time by time, and when it was completed by Allah Almighty, then by me and the perfect man who is the greatest name of Allah Almighty. Representing the greatest name of Allah Almighty was appearing Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the divine presence of Allah Almighty. And Allah Almighty addressing him, he first to talk to Allah Almighty. You are my beloved, God's word, whom I am endorsing in you all the realities and secrets and all the godly knowledge which related to creation from pre-eternal and forever, and all divinely godly knowledge which related to my uniqueness and oneness, to my ahadiyya and wahdaniyya, all the keeping for myself knowledge of the essence and the hidden treasure. This I will not do. No partnership with me, only for my ahadiyya and wahdaniyya. I am endorsing them on you, whom you represent my greatest name, and I am calling you as that in this divine godly word of kinship of Allah Almighty. I am blessing you by the name, by the greatest name, to represent my greatest name, and I am starting everything by you and calling the Allah, addressing him. What name Allah gives to Rasulullah as that Makkam? Some awliya say Ahmad, some awliya say Mahmud, some awliya say Muhammad. Really, as Branche and Maulana Shaykh, the first to be addressed from Allah Almighty to this perfect man, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. By my greatest name, who it you represent in the ocean of Wahdaniyya, the name which I am standing to be known as the name Allah, the name which is Jami' al-Asma' wa al-Sifat. What to say in English, Jami' al-Asma' wa al-Sifat? The name which is including all the names and attributes of Allah Almighty. Everyone to call me and to know or to make dua or to pray and to call me by the name of Allah only for them, but you are the greatest name which is under by the name, the greatest name of Allah. My beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the greatest name, perfect man, and insan, the greatest name, and the insan, complete insan and perfect insan, is Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for this Allah blessing him by this name, the greatest name, to represent the greatest name of Allah Almighty, to be an insan. And everyone searching what is the greatest name. And Rasulullah operating from the teachers of Quran to mention to Mawlana Shaykh Adnan that the greatest name of Allah Almighty is Al-Insan, the perfect man, who is healed of Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah blessing him, saying by the name, by the greatest name of Allah, which means by the greatest name of Allah, that Allah Almighty conceals in Bismillah. So he got the the alif from Bismillah and make the B to be long and connected with Sin. Why? Concealing down the greatest name who was appearing and represented by Muhammad Rasulullah. By which means Allah Almighty must be like this given by the greatest name of Allah Almighty, the name which is including all the attributes and names and the ocean of Wahdaniyya of Allah Almighty. You are the one representing the ocean, all oceans, the countless and endless ocean of the most merciful of the Rahman. Al-Rahim. Bismillah, Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim, Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim. Attributes of Allah Almighty, rest to whom? To Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And after this, Allah what He gives a good tidings? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. You are the divine, the godly word of mercy to all creation. لِلْعَالَمِينَ, to all creation. To all divine, the godly word in the kingdom of Allah Almighty. He is the one representing the ocean of the Rahmaniyyatul Rahman and Rahimiyyatul Rahim. Muhammad Rasulullah. And he is the one who is representing Allah Almighty by the greatest name, to be the greatest name of Allah Almighty, whom Allah Almighty governing all the 99 names and all divine, the godly names, but which everything is appearing in the divine, the kingdom of Allah Almighty, and attributes of Allah Almighty, which the names are the flag of these attributes, from which Allah Almighty is sponsoring the name, every name from its attributes related to Allah Almighty. And like this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah choosing him to be the house of Allah Almighty. Neither heaven or earth I choose them to be a house for me. Only I choose the heart of the real mu'min, who is the real mu'min to Allah Almighty, who is the ocean of Iman to Allah Almighty, who is the ocean of Ihsan of Allah Almighty, who is the ocean of all stages of Iman to Allah Almighty, Muhammad Rasulullah. And Allah Almighty settling His throne, settling His light, settling the shining and the sparkling of the light of the essence of Allah Almighty to be settled in the heart of this perfect man, of this godly divine, the godly word of Allah Almighty, of His kingship, appearing by the greatest name Muhammad Rasulullah. Then Allah Almighty, after mixing 500,000 years 7 times, by looking second to second, penetrating light from his eyes to this reality and mixing all manifestation and light, Maulana says, until this complete reality was well completed, carrying all light and manifestation to be appeared, complete, eternal, forever. Cannot be imagined. But like this mentioned, Allah Almighty, He ordered him, now you will be the divine, the godly Son, to translate my revelation and my teaching to all my people, to all these lives, to whom Allah Almighty was talking in Greek earnest, to whom Allah Almighty was teaching, to whom Allah Almighty was granting revelation, to whom Allah Almighty was training and practicing and dressing all godly knowledge and realities and secrets. Who was it, Allah Almighty? To whom Allah Almighty was dressing all this? He was dressing them to this manifestation and life. And the divine, the godly tongue of Allah Almighty who is translating these revelation and teaching and realities and secrets to be dressed for all this life is this reality, Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, representing and crowned to be the greatest name of Allah Almighty. In the divine, the godly word, kingship of Allah Almighty. And then Allah Almighty told them after finishing and making His name and His word to be connected with the divine, the godly word, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then Allah Almighty ordering him, all these what you are carrying, reduce the power of them. Make the voltage down and down and down, and let them to the one whom I am going to appear as representing the only, the divine, the godly word of name in the kingdom of Allah Almighty, not in the kingship. The kingship of Allah Almighty, Rasulullah, He is the perfect one. He is the Father of all. He is the Lord of all. He is the one whom all realities and light and manifestation in Him. And once when Shaykh and Maulana Shaykh Adnan, they said, we used to be the ones who representing the heart of that perfection. We are the heart of this reality. And from the heart, pumping all these light and manifestation to be in all the reality, which is the body, including the heart, of the greatest name of Allah Almighty. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, by the greatest name of Allah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And like this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, by the order of Allah Almighty, Allah appearing Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, Rasulullah was exporting from his world all the light and manifestation to be so low voltage that Sayyidina Adam can carry in the kingdom of Allah Almighty, and to all of them to appear in this physical body in the kingdom of Allah Almighty, which we are everyone time by time appearing new bodies, new creation, Malaika, Jundullah, Jinn, all kinds of creations appearing from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. Why Allah Almighty not allowing Rasulullah direct to appear from him? Then if directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they will be totally, all of them, melted, cannot tolerate. The light, the station of Rasulullah, which led to him from Allah Almighty, cannot be tolerated for this appearance of Allah Almighty, whom they are representing everyone by himself, by which greatest name he is existing in the divine being, presence of Allah Almighty. And for example, the power station of the government, you can bring it and put it in a house to give electricity. What will happen to all the wires and them? Go up. They say, so they stand wires and they put substation on the column. From every 100 columns, a substation, small one, and for every zip code area, a small station, substation, so that it will give electricity to the wire, so that the electricity will go from one to another. And like this, Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, then appearing from him, all prophets and the awliya to be substations, to give children of Adam alayhi salam by the light of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and by light of Allah Almighty. And for this Allah Almighty says, I am choosing the heart of children of Adam alayhi salam to settle my light and my throne in it according everyone to his capacity and ability to be appearing by which greatest name is existing in the divine presence of Allah Almighty. Now some of the people, they will tell you, show us, we want to see now. Now this knowledge. Knowledge always must be supported by things to enter to mind, to see. If the mind is not accepting, then whatever you give knowledge will be useless, not important. In time of Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu, in this time, and he was only 7 years old, not more, and he was at that time used to meet the spirituality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he used to be the big imam in between all ulama of the nation of Rasulullah, whom he used to take from the spirituality of Rasulullah to make fatwa. He was surprising all the muftis, all ulama in his time. No one can give as he used to give Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i. And from this inspiration and manifestation and tajalli over him, he was so young, Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i. He didn't reach 50 years of age. That's because of it. Well, and he was 7 years old and he was in the Azhar Sharif, which means the school where he used to study the Sharia in the Khilafah, Darul Khilafah. At that time, there was around all the world 25 priests whom Allah Almighty gives them miracles, that they can fly, they can enter into the one, they know whatever going in room, they can know anything related to the earth. They are given by Allah Almighty because they used to have too much seclusion, until Allah made the earth to them to be under their control. And by this power they were drawn from one Islamic country of the Khilafah, Islamic Khilafah, to another, and converting people to Christianity. Because while they are seeing this power, they are not seeing in the Muslims ulama, or the Muslim mufti, or the one who represents Islam, and so people converting and following them. And then they reach to the capital, Dar al-Khilafah, where the Ahitana of Khilafah, and they announced there to the Khalif, we are going to come here now. And they are reaching to the main station, and we are going to debate with your ulama. And if we win, as usual, all the people of the Dar al-Khilafah must be converted to Christianity, and you will follow us. And if your ulama can defeat us in the debate, we will, with all our people, convert to Islam and follow you. And the Khalifa was so scared, because you know what they are doing all around the country, so scared that he say, oh, Ya Allah, Ya Rasulullah, what I will do? All our ulama, all busy with money, collecting money. Then one of them is busy with Allah Almighty or Rasulullah, they have no knowledge. Where miracles? The knowledge they don't have. Miracles, not at all. We need someone who is dressed by a miracle, but to be awliya to you, yeah. Then he was like this night time, as he was sleeping. During sleeping, he saw Rasulullah in the dream, bringing for him Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i, the picture of him. He told him, go to the school of Sharia, search for a alim, for a big awliya, and a big reformer and alim, called Al-Shafi'i. His last name Al-Shafi'i is Muhammad bin Idris, like this. And so he told him, search for Shafi'i there, and let him make the debate with these priests. And quickly he called his minister, and he went to the school. And he was searching between all ulama, the Shaykh of the Azhar, between all the Shaykh of Islam, searching who is the Shafi'i. I want the one whose name is Shafi'i. They told me you don't have any Shafi'i. They have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling me there is Shafi'i in between you. He said, we don't have. Then he said, with the students, let us say, they say, no, the students totally ignorant. No, that's coming to we teach them. But only we have a small young boy, not 7 years old, but so clever and so well dressed by knowledge that any book he will catch it, just open it, he memorized from the cover to the cover. Perhaps go and see him. Perhaps he will give you any benefit that he knows the Shafi'i. Then he reached to Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i, to this boy, and this boy was every morning preparing some food for himself to eat. And he looked, this is what Rasulullah showed me in the dream. He told him, you are Shafi'i. He said, no, I am Abdullah Muhammad bin Idris, like this. But they, Rasulullah didn't be titled to be Shafi'i, to make Shafa'ah. For plenty, the majority of the Ummah, mention of Rasulullah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, I am going. This boy, oh Khalifa, Sultan, I am going to make Shafa'ah for him. And like this, we told him, I have a problem. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sending me to you to solve my problem. What your problem? He told them about the priests and how they are converting people by their miracles to be all following Christianity, and all the ulama cannot enter into debate with them, and Rasulullah choosing you. That this boy was jumping, happy that Rasulullah choosing him. He said, yeah, that's right. As Rasulullah ordering, I will be taking them, don't worry. 25, even 25,000 priests. I don't care. And then it was the day of the debating, and the Khalif was their condition is to have a big theater, and the theater, a big minbar in the main square of downtown of the city, and all people and the Khalif and all to be attending this debate. As the Khalif, the Sultan, he did so, and they came, 25 priests, they sit on the theater, and the boss of them, the bishop of them, up of the members, up, and they were waiting for this alim who is going, or group of ulama, to come and debate them. 1 hour, 2 hours, like this, waiting, and the Khalif also waiting and saying, what happened to this boy? Till now he is not appearing. Oh Allah Almighty, make it easy. Otherwise we are going to lose Islam and Muslims. Then from in between all these crowds, millions of people in this square, a small boy, 7 years old, he put a book under his shoulder, and he was running this wooden kabbar, they call it, shoes, was for wudu, overuse it easy. And he was crossing all these people until he arrived to the theater, and remember, he stand and he looked at the bishop at the feet. And all of them, the bishop and the priest, they were laughing, and they were so addressing the Khalifa, you don't have any ulama except this boy to come and debate us. Then this boy was answering, Egypt is an ocean of ulama, and all of them, they are big ulama. They don't feel that from the knowledge that they have, so proud not to debate such kafir like you. And for this, they choose me, the lowest one in between them, enough for you to debate you and all the bishop. And the bishop was surprised how a boy is talking like this to him. He said, okay, I don't care. You know the condition? Yeah, what's the condition? If we win you, all the Khalif and all the people will follow us. And if you win, we will follow you. Nothing important. That's what we want to start. And so the bishop was starting first the question, before completing the question, Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i was giving the answers because he was supported by spirituality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Regarding Rasulullah was giving the answer on this, he was translating from the station of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to them. Then another question, he told them one other. The first question is like this and the answer of it is like the second question you have is like this and the answer of it is like this. 101 questions, he gave what they want to ask and the answer with all evidence from 4 books, not only from the Holy Quran, but from the Bible, from the Torah, from the Zabur, all books. Even from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, only was translated, said Imam Shafi'i, and so they were so astonished and terrified. They have nothing anymore to ask. Then the bishop, he said, let us say, as you said, show us Allah Almighty. Since you are saying that Rasulullah represents the greatest name of Allah Almighty, and a real mu'min can see Allah Almighty, show us Allah Almighty. If there is Allah Almighty, show us Allah Almighty. Yeah, please, I will show you Allah Almighty. Come down. I bring him down, 25 streets with him, and then he was talking to the Khalifa, this boy, was addressing the Khalifa. Ya Khalifa al-Muslimin, O Sultan, bring for me a bucket of milk. Then the Khalifa, he thought that his boy now is hungry. He wants to drink milk. He was hungry. He said, now is the time of milk. Well, in between all these millions of people from where I am going to get for you milk now. Now it's time to eat, and all of them waiting your answer. The last question, show us Allah Almighty. He says, you as I'm telling you, O Khalid. Then he called his minister, telling him for us for a bucket of milk to bring it. But Allah Almighty prepared him, sending Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam as a one who is selling milk. And flooding the crowd, milk for sale, who wants milk? And the good lady Khalifa called, come, please. We will give you whatever you wanted us. And they gave this container of milk, bucket of milk to Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i. Then he told, oh Bishop, look at him. He looked. Oh priest, 25 feet around the bishop, look at him. Is there a butter in this milk? Yes, there is. Is there ghee in this milk? Yes, there is ghee in this milk. Is there cheese in this milk? Yes, there is cheese. Is there water in this milk? Yes, there is water. Show me. They told them, the bishop was answering, you are a boy. No. This must be boiled, and then must be put in a leather. At that time, they put in a leather skin of a goat and like this. Then shaking, until the butter will appear, the cheese appear, and the water will be aside. And like this, not like this, we can show you from the milk directly. It's not because you are a blind one, but like me, the one who can see by the eyes of his heart, the one who represents the greatest name of Allah Almighty, the one who is blessed by the greatest name of Allah Almighty, the perfect man, my beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is able to show you all this now in this milk, and he was ordering this milk by these. That's the butter appear, and the butter appear. That's the cheese appear, the cheese appear. That's the ghee appear, the ghee appear. That's the water to be aside, and the water was aside. Look. They were satisfied. They cannot put it in us because this is only given to Awliyaullah, to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He told them, the one who is like this can see Allah Almighty. But the one like you must be boiled and boiled, burned and burned, smashing himself, finishing his humanity until he be no more existing than all the delights of Allah Almighty existing in him, and to be given a godly life and to be related to the kingship of Allah Almighty, then not to the kingdom of Allah Almighty, then he can able to see Allah Almighty. But with all this weight and dirtiness you are carrying, especially the kufr and shirk, and you want to see Allah Almighty, you cannot. We have nothing to say now. Then the bishop wants us to remember and see. And Sayyidina Imam Shafi say, I have one question for you. What's the question? He told them only one question. What is the key? What is the key? What is the key of paradise? What is the key of heaven? What is the key of the divine presence of Allah Almighty? What is the key? Tell me. Then the bishop missed 1 hour. Not saying anything. And 1 5 weeks around. He was so ashamed that is the bishop 101 question, even you are not asking, he is giving you the question and the answer. And now one question you are not able to answer him. How we are following you? You are crazy. Making us to be ashamed in front of all these people. Then the bishop told them, look, if I will give the answer, then all of us, we must follow to convert to Islam. Because the key is with them, not with us. Then the priest, they told them, why we are following you? Because you promised us to enter us to heaven, and you are telling us land in heaven, in the paradise. And how you are now saying that the key is Muslims, with them, not with us? We will follow them. We want the Akhirah. We are not searching for this life. Quickly say, what is the key? Or Allah will do you from us, remember. They say to the bishop. Then he say, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. This is the key of paradises, of heaven, of all divine, godly world and kingdom and kingship of Allah Almighty. Then they can be all say, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. And you follow this boy better than to follow me. He said, well, wait, I have one question. Tell him. Even he said the key is أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله and all saying like this, and he was saying, wait, I have a specific question. He told them, okay, we are convinced by everything, and we say أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله, and we are not able to see Allah Almighty until we are well cooked in the oven of Allah Almighty. Tell us, since you say you see Allah Almighty, and you know the greatest name, and He is supporting you of Allah Almighty, tell us what Allah Almighty now is doing. Who knows what Allah Almighty is doing? It's so easy. I thought you want to ask a very important question, but you are asking a useless question. He told them, I will tell you what Allah is doing. But also, I cannot give the answer what Allah Almighty is doing without respect to Allah Almighty. You must show respect. How we show respect? At least to come down of the member and all the priests from the theater and to be here beside me down, and I will tell you here what Allah Almighty is doing. Quickly, the priests were very happy. Now they have the key of Jannah, paradises of heaven, all of them rushing towards Sayyidina Imam Shafi and the bishop following the priest, otherwise they will kill him. All coming down. Then Imam Shafi was so boy, 7 years old, so easy, like lightning. He was jumping and climbing the member up. He told them, "Oh bishop and priest, Allah Almighty now is doing the believers and the mu'min and the awliya of Allah Almighty, putting them up and you kafir down." This is what Allah Almighty do. You are down and I am up. And then all of them, they converted to Islam, and all whom they were following them, all this country again converted to Islam, and the Khalifa was very happy. This story only to show you that the one who is blessed by the greatest name of Allah Almighty, all this knowledge which we say before, if the one is not ready spiritually and finishing his humanity and well survived by a godly life from the kingship of Allah Almighty, and by life of Allah Almighty to be only existing by life of Allah Almighty and life of Rasulullah, cannot be seen and dressed by this knowledge and to know what is the greatest name of Allah Almighty, how to use it and how to be blessing by the greatest name of Allah Almighty. You must be in all this process, then you will be able to be then representing the greatest name of Allah Almighty on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah forgive us and let us. Allah, 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 Azim, Allah, 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 Kareem, Allah, 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 forgive us, mercy us, O Allah Almighty. We are requesting to you, Tawbah Ya Rabb, Ya Tawbah Ya Rabb, Tawbah Ya Rabb, Tawbah Ya Allah, Shukr Ya Allah. Bless us, O Allah Almighty, and bless us by Iman, by Islam. Bless us by divine knowledge. Bless us by realities and secrets, by your greatest name, by love to you, O Allah Almighty. Bless us to be in your kingship, O Allah Almighty, and to be sincere servants to you. إن عبادي ليس عليك عليهم سلطان. Allah Almighty directing Shaitan told them, my servant, the sincere servant, my real servant, you have nothing to do with them, no power for you on them. That's all the others whom they are common ones, you can say them. Let them be servants for you. But my servant, the Prophet, field of Prophet, Sahaba, Awliyaullah, never you have any power from them. They are my servants. They relate to my kingship, to Allah Almighty. And that has to be sincere. Ummah of Rasulullah, sincere lovers to Rasulullah, sincere followers and Ummah to Rasulullah, sincere servants to Rasulullah, and to be sincere murid to Mawlana Shaykh Adnan, Shaykh and all Shaykh, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, Sayyidina Umar, سيدنا عثمان سيدنا علي وفاطمة سيدنا حسن سيدنا حسين صحابة رسول الله ومن شيء سيدنا شاهدنا عثمان. Make us to be lovers to them, let us by love and sincerity to them, and make us to reach time of Sayyidina al-Mahdi alayhi salam, and to be sincere followers of Sayyidina al-Mahdi. Let's love to our hearts to Sayyidina al-Mahdi and Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and let our hearts to be lightened by God's light, O Allah Almighty, from your holy light of the essence, from the light of the essence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lighten our hearts by Islam, lighten our hearts by the real Iman, real Islam, real Ihsan, O Allah Almighty, lighten our hearts and by real reality of love. And let us to be the one whom you look at our faces, you will be pleased to Allah and awliya. And anyone of common ones look at our faces, make them to enter to Jannah without question to Allah. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad alayhi salam. Salatan tadumu wa
سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم شهادة نسألنا وسألنا تدوبوا ولا كل من ذكرناه وتنبينا وتنبينا وإن شاء الله وطعنا وبيان لعلنا ونبي الله عن الله العام والصديقين وأمواتنا وأموات المسلمين لله تعالى الفاتحة. Allah at 3:45 or 3:50 we play Asr and we move to visit Shaykh Adnan when we learn to read the Khatam and Zikr in the